All right, today we're diving into a high-stakes standoff where honestly, the entire global economy is holding its breath. We're focusing on one specific, narrow waterway, the Strait of Hormuz. It's become a flashpoint for a conflict that really shows us how a modern war might actually get started.
So, we're on day 22 of this building crisis. And you know what the big story is right now? It's that nothing has actually happened yet. Now, this isn't a sign of peace, not at all. It's the sign of a conflict that's completely ready, it's poised, and it's just waiting for one decision or one event to set it all off. The quiet is, well, it's the most alarming part.
So you have to ask yourself, how does a war in the 21st century really kick off? It's not always a sudden surprise attack. Just like we're seeing here, sometimes it starts with this calculated pause, a period of just immense pressure where everybody is watching and waiting and wondering who's going to make the first move. To really get a grip on this standoff, you have to understand the location. Everything, and I mean everything, revolves around one single place, what military planners are calling the strategic center of gravity. And here it is, the Strait of Hormuz. This is one of the most critical maritime choke points on the entire planet. Any military move here doesn't just have local consequences, it sends massive shockwaves through the whole global economy. And that right there is why the world is watching so closely.
And you can already see the effects, right? Even without a single shot being fired. Tanker traffic is way down, you've got ships just sitting and waiting, and the cost to insure them is going through the roof. The economic pressure is already building, and you can bet the energy markets are hanging on every single piece of news coming out of the region. Okay, let's get into the military details. Both sides are completely prepared and they're in position. This isn't some kind of bluff. This is a conflict that is armed, it's ready, and it's just waiting for that green light. This table does a great job of showing the two totally different approaches at sea. On one side, you've got the coalition naval forces, very structured, highly coordinated, and totally ready to flip the switch to start escorting convoys. And on the other side, you've got Iran's naval forces, using a much more asymmetric strategy. We're talking fast attack craft, drones for surveillance, and just constant monitoring. Two very different ways of thinking, both ready for contact.
Now, up in the air, you might expect a massive bombing campaign, but that's not what's happening. Instead, the coalition is running what they call a sustained pressure strategy. These are careful, targeted strikes against very specific military assets. The goal isn't to start a huge war, it's to weaken Iran's capabilities and keep the whole escalation under really tight control.
So how is Iran responding? Well, just like at sea, it's all about being asymmetric. They're not trying to go head-to-head with the coalition's superior air power. No way. Instead, they're using drones and leaning on their proxy forces in other countries to apply pressure. It's their way of fighting back without triggering a massive retaliation, all while keeping their own air defenses on high alert.
So this begs the question, right? If the militaries are so ready to go, what's the holdup? Well, this brings us to the political side of the conflict, which is every bit as important as the military one. You could say the hardware is all ready to go, but the political software? Still loading. This chart right here, it's the key to understanding the delay. You've got a core coalition, the US, UK, and France, that is operationally aligned and ready to act. But then you have this other really crucial group of partners, countries like South Korea and Japan. They're militarily capable, but they are still waiting for the political green light from their own governments. The force is militarily ready, but politically it's incomplete. And just to add another layer to this, there's a powerful U.S. Marine Expeditionary Unit, an MEU, parked just outside the strait. This isn't just about ships anymore. This means you have troops on hand who can respond super quickly to any threat, which gives commanders a lot more options and, frankly, better control over how this whole thing could escalate.
A crisis like this never just happens in a bubble. The world's other great powers, Russia and China, are watching this very closely. And trust me, they each have their own unique game plan for how to play this.
So the key takeaway is that their approaches couldn't be more different. For Russia, this is all about applying geopolitical pressure. For China, it's almost entirely about economic pressure and just keeping things stable. Let's break that down a bit more. Russia is playing a very clever, indirect game. They definitely benefit from having Western resources tied up here, but with their own militaries so heavily committed in Ukraine, they are steering clear of any direct involvement. Their pressure is all diplomatic and informational, trying to make the coalition look bad, playing up the risks of escalation, all without having to fire a single shot. China's playbook, on the other hand, comes down to one word: energy.
As the world's biggest oil importer, their #1 priority is making sure that oil keeps flowing through the Strait of Hormuz. So, behind the scenes, they are pushing hard for de-escalation. Their main weapon here isn't a warship, it's their huge economic influence.
Which, of course, brings us to the most important question of all. What happens next? With everything so perfectly balanced on a knife's edge, what's the specific event, the trigger, that could finally light the fuse on this conflict?
Okay, so analysts are watching for 4 very specific triggers. Number 1, a formal announcement that convoys are going to begin. Number 2, the first oil tanker actually moving through the strait under armed escort. 3, any attempt by Iran to challenge one of those escort formations. And finally, number 4, any confirmation that a second U.S. Marine unit is being sent to the region. Any one of those could be the spark.
And really, if you want to boil this entire tense situation down to one sentence, this quote from intelligence reports is it. Military readiness complete. Political decision pending. The military is ready. Every ship is in place, every pilot is briefed. But that final political decision to act, it just hasn't been made yet.
So I'll leave you with a final thought on all this. When you have a conflict that is this meticulously prepared, this poised for action, what's the real first move? Is it the first ship that sails, the first shot that's fired? Or is it the quiet political decision, made hours or maybe days earlier, that secretly sets everything in motion?